Now, I'm going to introduce our keynote, and I could not be more excited to have Heather join us. We have a tradition at these summits. The day one keynote always starts with the problem, and then the rest of the summit focuses on the solution. But I'd like to start with the problem so we know what we're trying to solve. Our day two summit keynote will focus on the solution. As many of you know, BJ Fogg. Just real quick, Heather, the reason we've asked Heather to join us is she is a digital forensics expert. And digital forensics is all about going into an organization after they've been hacked and then analyzing all the systems and data and figuring out what happened. So she goes in and cleans up organizations' messes. And because she has worked in so many incidents, she sees firsthand how the human is one of the primary drivers of incidents today. So Heather is going to be sharing stories of incidents she's worked with and how the human played a key part. And folks, let me just show you how smart, how good Heather is. Just 30-second story. Heather, I warned you. As we know, several years ago, the US military, Delta Force, was called into action and went into Osama bin Laden's compound and took out Osama bin Laden. When Delta Force was in there, they identified and found a huge number of mobile devices and digital technology that they grabbed, put into a top secret classified bag, and then sealed that bag. They then personally flew that bag to the United States, and then Delta Force personally gave that to Heather and said, Heather, please let us know what's on this. So when Delta Force needs the very best, Delta Force goes to Heather. And oh, by the way, while she's working with Delta Force, Heather is also a mom of two. So Heather, we are super excited to have you. Please, the show is all yours. Go ahead and enlighten us on the world of digital forensics and the human. Thank you,
Lance. That was very fancy, very, very fancy. Some about me, and Lance gave me such a nice introduction. Thank you, Lance, for that. I've been doing digital forensics incident response for almost 20 years already, which is crazy to me. The time has gone by so quickly. My current role at SANS, I'm the SANS DFIR curriculum lead. I am an author of the Smartphone Forensics class, and I'm a senior instructor. I have a day job as well, which is kind of crazy. I'm the senior director of digital intelligence at Celebrate. And I also have I'm a mom, I'm a wife, but I have two little ones. My son is 8 and my daughter is 4. So I hope that I am teaching them that it's okay to work hard, to be passionate, and to have a job so that when they Google me one day, they'll say, my mom actually did cool stuff. And even though she's busy, she's doing things that make us all safer. And that's really what I want them to know. And then there's a little tidbit at the bottom. I do love good wine and nice bourbon. And that's just a little bit about me. But let's talk about DFIR. So first, digital forensics incident response. We call this DFIR all the time. Why am I, as a digital forensic expert, talking to you all at a security summit? The role is really the janitor. We are the cleanup. It is so rare for anyone to say, hey, let's have a forensics team that is proactively protecting us or doing things. That's not really our job. Our job is after something occurs. So we are the reactive. We are the coming in after the fact. Where it all starts, and if DFIR is something you're interested in, and digital forensics belongs at every security awareness thing, because you're obviously here to learn things about technology and how to be safer and more secure. So where do you start? You introduce yourself, you network, you come up with someone, you find them on Twitter and say, hey, it seems pretty cool what you're doing. How can I do that too? I've written many blogs, and I can share this in the Slack channel after the fact. I blog at smarterforensics.com, and my background is actually CSI before CSI existed. So I did bloodstain pattern analysis in college. I was stringing up blood on walls, and I loved it. I had no idea that a computer hard drive would change my entire life. From there, I branched into cell phones. And as Lance talked, I worked huge cases. Bin Laden is obviously one that's a big claim to fame. I wish things were personally delivered to me, how he made it sound so fancy. That is not necessarily how it went, but every case I've worked matters to me for a different reason. It could be protecting innocent children. It could be someone that stole an idea from someone else. It was a lot of terrorism. So I try to find work that I'm passionate about that helps. As far as a little snippet on things that are coming with SANS, there's a new to cyber program, and it's an affordable way to have an introduction to SANS training, which is kind of cool. You could take little modules and say, oh, I actually am interested in DFIR and I didn't know I was. So there are so many things you could do. There are brand new SANS classes coming out, and I put a little snippet there. I put all kinds of things just listed here, and obviously you get access to the slides, but there's great introduction courses. Also, I'm not sure if you're aware, but if you go out to the SANS website and you go to DFIR, you can watch an hour of any class you want for free. So free is always good, right? Everyone wants to know free, but you definitely can do that. But let's talk about why we are here. The human risk. And this is part of a security paper that I literally just released, I think 3 weeks ago for SANS. And it was all about understanding the human risk. So there are two things you have to consider here. There are the humans who mean well. They don't want to harm your organization. They literally just accidentally click on something. And I'm going to give you some examples and cases I've worked on how this could occur. So we have the good human, and then we have the malicious insider. So Snowden on the right-hand side, you can take your beliefs, whatever you want with Edward Snowden, but he was an insider threat. He did harm to his organization with malicious intent. Now, his beliefs and what occurred, you can't control that. What is really difficult is, how do we train humans to stop a human from doing something wrong? Is it good enough? Do you need software? Do you need some kind of monitoring or intervention? I know where I work, we'll get links on occasion just to see who clicked on it. But one of the biggest mistakes organizations make is, if someone clicks on a link in your organization and they weren't supposed to, you can't shame them. There has to be some kind of way to talk them through on, okay, this is a phishing attack and you actually clicked on it, and here's some education on how to not do that again. Now, can good people go bad? Absolutely. Life happens. Think about COVID. Think about how we all maybe worked in offices and we could see if someone started acting weird. During COVID, when people went remote, would you even be able to tell that someone's typical behavior wasn't the same? Most malicious insiders are motivated by mission. They don't believe in your mission anymore. Money is a big thing, or they want to cause harm. It's really, really a malicious thing. So just know that it's not always intentional, and it could be something so simple. So this is where I then come in. Something occurs, and I found this little video, and look at all the devices. This is where it becomes a nightmare. We are addicted to our devices. Mine is sitting right here. It's always right next to me. We have tablets, we have computers, we have multiple phones, we have AirPods, we have devices in our home. Our children have all of these devices. What happens when something goes wrong? What happens when your teenager downloads something or clicks on something that they weren't supposed to, and now it's on your home network? All of this can occur. So if everything I'm saying to you, it doesn't have to be in a workplace environment. It could be in your home. The biggest mistake I think people make is assuming you are not targetable. And I do talks at RSA, and I've done it the last few years, where you are important enough to hack. And a lot of people don't think about it that way. Everyone is hackable. You want to make sure that you are protecting yourself in a way so someone doesn't have to come in and clean up your mess after it's occurred. Bring your own devices, make our jobs very, very difficult. We have to be prepared for everything. We have no idea what's going to connect to networks. We don't know how long someone has been on a network or if something has occurred. So understanding even how to secure these devices are so important. I'm going to give a little hint on something that's coming out that I worked with Lance on in October for Security Awareness Month. I worked with SANS to record several videos on how to secure the Chromebook, how to secure your kids in gaming chat rooms, how to make sure your home networks, if you have Alexa and Apple Home and you have Nest cameras, how to make sure that your family is safe. There's going to be cheat sheets. There's going to be all kinds of things. So please stay tuned for those. They are set to help you educate even your parents. So think about this. My dad is in his 70s. If something happens to him, am I going to be able to help him with his computers? Will I be able to get access to his passwords to close accounts or deal with anything like that? So you really just want to make sure that you watch it. It's built for you. It's meant from human to resonate with everyone on what is actually there. But now let's get down into the real stuff here. Different cases and mistakes that we make. So when we look at this slide right here, targeted individualized attacks, most of you, when you see the news and you're like, oh, the pipeline was just hacked, that was bad, someone put ransomware on it. What happens if someone puts ransomware on your iPhone today? What are you going to do? You are hackable. You are a potential target. What people don't realize is once you're attacked, what does this mean for you? If someone gets onto your device, they now know where you are. Think about this. How does someone know where you are? And I wish we were all live in a room and you could raise your hands and answer this. How many of you post where you are on social media? Me. I checked in at Philadelphia Airport saying I was flying to Las Vegas. Guess what? I didn't check back in at the Las Vegas airport and say I'm back in Philadelphia. So people now know that I'm away. They know I'm away from my home. I checked in at a restaurant last night and posted a picture of dinner. So now they know where I had dinner. In addition to that, how did they get onto my device? Do they have access to all my other devices? And then one of the biggest mistakes people make, and I'm going to hold up my phone right here. If someone gets onto this phone, could they potentially land on my Mac? Could they get into my work email? What happens if I get a brand new phone? I can't shake it. Why are these attacks still happening to me? Why does someone still seem like they're stalking me or know where I am? It's because I'm using the same cloud accounts. So let's talk about anatomy of attacks now. So the most of the attacks that I have seen, these are not in place. And I actually have a little animation I'm going to show you coming up in a few slides on how easy it is for someone to actually get those passcodes or two-factor authentication. Now, look at the second bullet there. Personal information publicly available. People are like, I don't do that. I don't list my birthday. I don't say my children's names. I don't say my nicknames, but you actually do. Think about social media. Think about your friends tagging you and say, oh, Heather, how are Jack and Natalie? Jack turned 8 today. Happy birthday to your son. Look at your dog. Your dog is so cute. When Heather was younger, she used to go by this nickname. Everything is so out there. Now, I also want you to think about this. The social media quizzes that appear and we see them where it's pick your roller derby name. And you're like, what? Or what Disney princess are you? And you go in and you answer questions. You're like, when is your birthday? Which high school did you go to? What street did you grow up on? It's like, oh, congratulations. You are Princess Belle from Shady Lane. Now everyone knows Shady Lane is the street I grew up on. These are little social media disasters that give people answers. Think about security questions. A security question could be the street where you lived when you were 5. What was your first grade teacher's name? We put these answers out there and people don't even think about it. We make ourselves hackable. So you have to be really careful with that. For phishing awareness, if something does not look right, don't click on it. That's literally the best advice I give to my father. Do not click on something, Dad. He's like, well, I wanted to win 100 iPhones. You're not going to win 100 iPhones. Do not click on something if it doesn't feel right. There are so many free trainings and things that you can do on that, but just be cautious. Many of you, again, if I could ask you to raise your hands, would probably say, yeah, I even get these text messages. I get phishing messages through an SMS to my phone. It happens all the time. If you can have verification mechanisms, strong passwords, and things in place, that is obviously very helpful. Now, what can you do about this? Most people don't even think about risk management. And since I was just talking about the iPhone and iCloud and my device, if you use Google, and I guarantee you do, we all love Google, right? Everyone has Google Photos or Gmail or something. Do a security check on yourself. Go to myactivity.google.com and log in. And what I want you to do is first look at your location history. I guarantee it's turned on. And then you can go in and you're going to see all the places in the world that you have been. It is frightening. Take a view of yourself. So this is you essentially doing forensics on yourself. Now, on the right-hand side, a security checkup. This is you doing due diligence to making sure you are safe, that you are the only one logged in. So you can see there, it says near Tokyo, Japan, yesterday at 7:01. If that's not you, that you logged into an iPad, that's an issue. If you did not log in to a Linux system, that's a problem. Check your devices. Look at recent security events, and you'll notice you can say, no, it wasn't me, and alert Google that it's not you. Just recently, I got an email from Instagram telling me that they were sorry that I was having issues getting into my account. And I'm like, that's strange because I have two-factor authentication set. I have a code on my phone and I didn't need that code. Someone else was most likely trying to log in as me. It happens all the time. You need to be aware. You have to educate yourself and be ready for these types of attacks. We all have to be responsible humans. And I know this is what I tell my son all the time. You have to be responsible. Assume everyone cares about your data. Seriously, like, do you know how many times I've even been guilty of saying, oh, I'm not important enough. No one cares to get into my stuff. Yes, they do. It could even be an attacker practicing. You don't want to be the example. Assume your data matters to someone. So be so careful, again, with that social engineering stuff I talked about. Try not to highlight, let's say this, mother's maiden name. That's also a security question all the time. Street you lived on, first school you went to. Don't put all this in your background information. You know, on social media, you could say, this person's my father, this person's my mother, this is a cousin. Be careful with how much you give away. Review your settings. Enable two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. There are so many authenticators. I use Google Authenticate personally, and I have all of my codes in one place so that when I want to log into Instagram, when I want to log into my tax stuff, when I want to log into Sands, it gives me a code. And then it knows it's me. And they can be sure that I am the one that has permission for that access. Creating strong passwords, it can be really overwhelming. And it's very difficult for someone that's not using them every single day or technically used to it. And I say technically used to it because I've been doing this for 20 years. So I'm used to workplace environments having ridiculous, it must be 17 characters long, uppercase, lowercase, special characters, and it becomes extreme. But if you're not used to that, it can be really, really overwhelming. So wouldn't it be nicer just to remember one good password and then leverage a password manager, which will help you otherwise? Lance and his team, they've done some Ouch newsletter, securing the human and things on that topic. So take a look at them with password managers, how to enable different protections to make sure you are responsible for your own data. Mitigation considerations, keeping your sessions safe. Now, when we talk about keeping your sessions safe, some people are like, what is a session? Heather, what are you talking about? And I'm actually going to start my camera for just a minute here to give you a good example. So even if my screen is turned on, even just swiping up and getting rid of that could be closing a session, logging out of the session, and making sure that you are controlling these environments. So you want to log out. Now, a log out, does a swipe up mean you're logged out? Does just closing the browser mean you are logged out? No, it's not. I want you to physically log out when you are done with something. Never, ever, ever leave your screen open. This is kind of a joke. At work, we used to change each other's screensavers and do ridiculous things. Please put locks on your computers, on your smartphones, on your tablets. Your children should also have locks on their tablets. Think about this. My son and daughter, they have their thumbprints. Their devices also unlock with my thumbprint. I have a master password for it just in case they accidentally change theirs so we don't get locked out of their devices. But what if your child left their iPad on a plane? iPads, the Kindles, all these devices know location information. So now you may have someone that also knows where your child lives. Think about this. We need to secure these sessions. For developers, if there's any developers out there, or if you can give any advice to your workplace, sessions should expire. So think about banking. You log into your bank, eventually if you go back, even if you keep that browser open, it says, oh, your session expired. That's good security. You should not have the option to always keep things open. So be very, very careful with that. And single sign-on, that SSO, I'm sure many of you do not know what this means, and I'm going to show you in an animated slide coming up what single sign-on is and how easy it could be for something that you intentionally tried to do correctly to fall into the wrong hands. So now let's talk about apps. We are all guilty, right? We have a lot of applications, and that's fine. And I'm not saying don't use these applications, just understand what the point of the application is. Is it working as expected? So if you download an application that is going to take pictures of your work receipts and upload them, that's exactly what it should do. If it's also like prompting you with all of these games or you can chat in it, that's probably extreme and not necessarily what that application is designed for. When you give permissions to these applications, also consider, does it need it? And there are so many times where I go through my apps and I turn camera off. Camera and microphone are huge threats to us as humans. You don't want people watching you. You don't want people listening to you. So consider, do you actually need it? Does this banking application need access to your camera? And at first I saw that, I'm like, no, this is stupid. I'm turning this off. Why do you think it needed access to my camera? Because of mobile deposit. As soon as you need it, you'll realize, oh, that's why. This is why it's tracking my location and wants to tell me where the closest ATM is. Some things make sense, some things don't. It is always in your control. You could always turn things off and back on. So make sure you trust your applications, but you verify. So verification is key when it comes to these. So this is me, and I'm trying to log on to my work email. I get hit with that single sign-on. I get a code on my phone. Fantastic. It's me. I have my phone. If you press it again, comes back to me. And then one more time, it gives me access to everything. Now, this could be your Instagram, but in this example, this is my corporate email, all of our cloud storage that we use at work, all of my data repositories, and every communication for myself and my team. I have access to it all. Things are going well. Now, what should happen is when I am done, I log out. That single sign-on should also expire. Now, this is where things go wrong. What happens when someone intercepts that code? If they already know that my email is hmahalik@sans.org and they have guessed my password, if they get that code or they intercept it, now the attacker has access to everything in my organization. One of the most common questions I am asked is, how the heck does that happen, Heather? So there are a few things. And I always use my poor father as an example. My dad calls me one day and he's like, hey, I got a new phone, honey. And guess what? They gave me a new phone number. And I was like, what are you talking about, Dad? Why would you get a new phone number? He's literally the only phone number I think I have memorized. And now he has a new one. And he's like, well, they said they couldn't port my number over. Something went wrong with it. So now my dad's phone number could be used by someone else. So if he had single sign-on set for anything, when he goes to log in, that person gets a code. What if that were intentional? What if someone tries to get your phone number? Things like this could very easily happen. It also could be that someone has hacked your mobile phone, so they are getting a copy of everything you're getting. It's a vicious, vicious cycle. You need to protect your single sign-on. It is a human failure, but it's also a human responsibility that you keep your eye on these things and that you know what is actually occurring. Something else that's super important, and please educate your families, your friends, your workers, everyone you know on this. If you get a code on your phone, let's say I use a banking app and I get a text message saying, here is your code, 123456. And I'm like, that's weird. I didn't try to log in. Someone is trying. I also have it set that, like, if my kids send a code to their iPad, it sends it to mine as well. So if I ever see that, I ask them, what are you trying to do right now? Why are you getting a code? Because I want to be aware and keep them safe. You don't want things to fall into the wrong hands. Now, where I come in and other defer, a forensic team may already be in place in your workplace environments. A lot of people don't even think about this. They're like, oh, that's what those people do. Remember, the clean up people, that's us. Have any forensic expert or even hire someone. I know many people that go in to educate security teams on how to not let things happen. How do attacks occur? How do bad people end up on your networks? Asking the right questions of forensic practitioners will really help you. Do you know how many neighbors I help even when they're like, okay, we just got a new Mac. What should we do? And I just talk them through it. Or people will ask, okay, we got a new Wi-Fi service. Verizon was at our house. How should we secure that? Ask questions. Take free training. Read all the security awareness documentation that SANS provides. It's all free and it's really informative. And a lot of these videos, they're not going to eat up a lot of your time. You could learn something in 4 minutes or less by just watching a snippet and then reading a cheat sheet. Don't be afraid to educate yourself. Asking questions is huge though. There are not stupid questions when it comes to your security. There really aren't. Every question matters. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Now, there are so many times where people think, oh, am I being attacked? Or someone tried to guess my password, or this happened. It may not be the truth. It could just be pop-ups happening on your system, or maybe you need to clear your browser. But assuming safety first, I guess that's good advice, really is going to make a difference in keeping you safer here. We are human. We are a risk to organizations. The issue, we are also the responders. So we are the people who create the messes. We are the attackers. We are the ones that do the cleanup. We all look very similar. Like for me, if someone said I was an insider threat, I hope that would never happen. But what does an attacker look like? There's all these personas and jokes on this is what an attacker looks like. I'm at Black Hat DEF CON. We all look very, very different, but we are here for the same reasons. We need to not be afraid of technology. We need to educate ourselves on how powerful technology is, so how risky and dangerous it can be. Human risk it's tough. Also, the pressure of a human to protect a network, to protect an organization, it's a lot. We need help. You can't do it all alone. Humans and tech can be the most dangerous to your organization. I always recommend hiring the right people, having a good morale in the workplace environment, having open communications. You want to build a mission people believe in. You want people to be happy at work. Happy people at work aren't going to become your insider threat. It's going to be the disgruntled ones, the ones that aren't happy. Security awareness across the community, your homes, your teams, it is going to help manage and mitigate these risks. And then there's always obviously the weakest link. Don't be the weak link. And at some point you will make a mistake. Everyone has clicked on something maybe they shouldn't. Most people don't realize it. So think about this. You get an email. Let's say I get an email right now from Lance saying, Heather, here's the link for your keynote. And I see it and I click on it. That's expected. I expected Lance to send me a link. The issue is it's not really from Lance. Someone researched it and said, okay, I'm going to try hmahalik@sans.org. I'm going to send her this link. And I click on it. And then I reach out to Emily and say, oh, Lance's link didn't work. But I don't even think twice. The click, that one click could have changed everything. There could be something downloading in the background. It could now be connecting to SANS's network because maybe proper security mechanisms weren't in place. All because I was like, okay, it says Lance. I didn't realize his last name is misspelled. I didn't realize it's not from a SANS email address. We all make mistakes. That could definitely happen. There's another SANS instructor named Kevin Ripa, and I run this lunch show called Life Has No Control Alt Delete. And Kevin did the lunch show talking about ransomware. And I was joking with him saying I'm not going to get ransomware. I wouldn't click on it. And he's like, oh yeah, Heather, you want to know how I would get you? And he's like, this is a terrible example, but for all the moms out there, tell me you would not do this too. He said he would find out where my kids went to school and send a text saying your kid's school is on lockdown. Click here to figure out where to pick them up. I would 1,000,000% click on that link. Think of this, like as a parent, if you think there's an active shooter or something horrible happening to your child, you're going to click on that link, right? We are all capable of doing this. A good attacker will know those levels of details about you and make you want to click or have to click almost because they want onto your systems. So just educate yourself, be aware, try your best, log out, and remember you really are hackable. You just don't want to be the one that's attacked. Okay. These are 2 ways that you can contact me. LinkedIn, I am on LinkedIn. I'm going to tell you all the truth. I am terrible at responding to direct messages on LinkedIn. I do respond to direct messages on Twitter. If you email me, hmahalik@sans.org. I'm here. I will be in the Slack. Does anyone have questions?